Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed this free clip of aggressive progressives on the Young Turks. This is just a preview of what you will receive with TYT membership. That means exclusive interviews, panel discussions, and more of Jimmy, and of course, me. Check out this next clip, and if you like what you see, you can access full episodes of Aggressive Progressives by becoming a member. Head to tyt.com/join now.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Aggressive Progressives. I want to thank Graham Elwood for sitting in last week. Who was he with?
He was
Dave
with Lawrence
Anthony
Steiner
and Lawrence.
Dave Anthony.
Dave Anthony and Lauren Steiner was here last week on the Aggressive Progressive. Big thanks to all of those people for stepping in and doing a good job. I appreciate it. I'm here with the Raging Asian, Steve O. I'm here with the Miserable Liberal, and I'm also here with the Human Fleshlight. It's Malcolm Fleshner. How are you?
I think I came out third in the nickname contest.
I think so.
You know, if that were a thing.
I think so.
And you even have miserable right in yours, and I'm still behind you.
I know.
Mine's
I know.
slightly racist. Not really, it's racial, not racist.
It's racial. That's very different.
Big difference, yeah.
Right. You can be an Asian and raging.
But it's
sounds
not
like-
like you're asking to trade with me.
No.
And then when we go down to Louisiana, he's the Cajun raging Asian.
Exactly. By the way, Louisiana's fun. New Orleans. Fun
New Orleans,
city.
sure.
Fun city.
New Orleans in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you don't like the rest of Louisiana? Lafayette? Have you ever been to Lafayette?
I've only been to New Orleans, and yeah, that's it. Just New
I've been
Orleans.
to one other part. I can't remember it, but I didn't like it. I did like New Orleans. Every time. How could you not? Everybody always has a good time in New Orleans, right? Even when I was sick, I liked it. Anyway, so when were you there?
It was a year or two. It was a year and a half after Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's my phone, sorry.
So we went down there to visit the lower 9th Ward and see all the hurricane damage.
Oh.
It was incredible to see it up close in person. It was like more than a year later, still a disaster down there. And it was really sad because every building had some sort of insignia and these numbers, and we're like, what do these numbers mean? And we found out one of the numbers meant how many people from there died. I'm like, great.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. All right, well, that's a bummer. Thanks for bringing it up. Listen.
Yeah, but otherwise, New Orleans, great time.
Great
Fun
time in
French
New Orleans.
Quarter, oh man.
Great oysters. We had a lot of oysters.
So,
Beignets.
what we're going to be talking about today, beignets. You go down to, what's that place that serves the beignets? What's this called? Is that,
Café de moi.
no, there's a different,
I don't know what it's called, but they're delicious.
and then you get they serve the coffee with the chicory in
Yes.
it. Oh, it's not Dupars. I almost said Dupars. But there's a famous place down there, and
Is it
Edwin thinks
Arnold's?
it's French. Café du Monde. Oh, that's it. That's it. Café du Monde. He was saying it French, so I didn't understand him. He was saying Café du Monde. It was at Café du Monde.
For those who don't know, Edwin is actually a genius.
Yes.
He knows everything. Also, he can do the Rubik's Cube in like 37 seconds, the whole thing.
It's because he used to fly all around because he used to work for an airline, so he got to go to places, so he knows stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
You've been in New Orleans, right, Edwin? Yeah. there you
Pretty
go.
much everybody who works for an airline is really good at the Rubik's Cube. It's a standard.
Standard.
Yeah.
So we just dismissed his genius.
Yeah. Plus, he's a Raiders fan, so how smart can he be? Look at
They're doing great this year.
That's great. Making friends with the Raiders. Nice work there.
So coming up on today's show, we're going to talk about the smearing of Tulsi Gabbard has commenced, and it's not only coming from the right or from the corporatists, it's also coming from some people on the left. Someone just told me that they think Tulsi, well, we'll talk about it. Somebody just told me they thought Tulsi was getting in the race because she's controlled opposition so she can split the progressive vote. Tulsi is. Tulsi's trying to split the progressive vote. Tulsi, the person who stepped down from the DNC to support Bernie Sanders in 2016. It was all part of a bigger plan to run in 2020 and then split the progressive vote. What kind of nuts are people thinking? Yeah, that's what, by the way, Elizabeth Warren's already in the race. They're already splitting the progressive vote with Elizabeth Warren. That's already happening. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the smears that Tulsi Gabbard's getting. We're also going to talk about the smears that Bernie Sanders is taking, right? Because you know that's coming, but it's the women it's okay for women to hate a guy for being a guy. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because that's what happened on MSNBC. There was a commentator who was a woman who didn't like Bernie Sanders because he was white and old and a male. Those are 3 reasons why you're not supposed to dislike someone. Okay. We're also going to talk about how a neocon fact checker plans to wage war on the independent media. It's coming. I don't know how else to describe this story, but it's coming. There's big money people out trying to. They're doing the. You know how on Facebook they have the Atlantic Council telling you what's a good Facebook page and what's a bad one. Well, this guy's going to do it for all the news. These billionaires have an organization that's going to rank the news, and of course, where do you think this show is going to be ranked? I'm going to guess at the bottom. Okay.
It's going to be up there, down there, the Fleshlight.
That's right.
Name range.
And we're also, Beto O'Rourke, if we have time for it, he's got some troubles with unions, and we're going to talk about that. It's when I was reading the story, half the time I was like, oh, that Beto. And then I was like, well, he's got a point. I was half and half because it was about police unions.
I was
Yes.
half and half as well.
Yeah, it's about police unions. But before we start that, let's start with what do you call those things that are the red things? And you know which camera you're looking at?
Tally light.
Tally light. How much do they cost? I'll donate.
I don't think you will.
I think I already did.
Well, we have the lights there. They just don't work for some reason.
Maybe
Yeah.
they need a light bulb.
No, Malcolm knows why they don't work, right?
We upgraded the system, and it's very expensive to get new functioning tally lights, and so we have not done that. That's what I was told anyway.
Maybe we should do a fundraiser for 5
I'm
minutes.
a big fan of tally lights. GoFundMe for tally lights. Don't donate money to somebody who's got cancer. No.
No, I'm talking about when we raised money for the show, when we had that big drive.
Specifically, yeah.
We could it would take 5 minutes.
Amplify our tally lights.
Amplify our tally lights. Okay. So that's my
Do
suggestion.
you get sick of watching Young Turks hosts looking into the wrong camera? Well, there's something you can do about it. And I'm Malcolm Flesh, and I'm here to tell you.
Today's cameras. It's very important. Most of the communication is nonverbal, so that's why it's important to have a camera. This is fun. That's why I like doing the show. It's fun. Certainly isn't for the money. All right, here we go. My friend Kyle Dunnigan, that might be a little strong. My friendly acquaintance in comedy, Kyle Dunnigan.
He's been on TYT. He's been on the Happy Half Hour. He's been here. He's been in this building.
Oh, really? We should have him on this show, maybe.
All right, let's look into it.
I don't know what his politics are. That's the problem. He's always funny whenever I see him, though. If ever I go into the Improv and I see him on stage, I'm like, oh, great, right? I know I'm going to laugh because he's funny. And he did an impression of. Have you been watching that Ray Liotta Chantix commercials? So Steph and I are obsessed with them. We replay it over and over.
We rewind it.
Rewind it. Like, do you think when they had his facelift, do you think they cut him? Where did they cut him? And we're doing all this stuff, right? Because he looks a little weird on that commercial,
Yeah,
right?
because he doesn't have any sideburns.
He in certain in certain angles he doesn't. In certain ones he does. So anyway, and I like Ray Liotta, a big fan of him. And Karen, that's all the money we had in the world, and you flush it down the toilet. Anyway, so here he is. There's a guy who actually can do an impression. Kyle Dunnigan doing his Chantix. Ready?
I tried everything to quit smoking. Cocaine, everything. Nothing worked. Then I tried Chantix. What's Chantix?
It's the drug you take to abstain from smoking.
Stop smoking?
Yes, to stop smoking.
Why would you want to do that? Hey, I'm Ray, and I quit smoking with Chantix. So try Chantix.
Ray.
Yeah.
You can't swear.
I'm Ray, and I stopped smoking with Chantix. So you should get Chantix.
Well, Ray.
I'm just talking to myself. It's weird, you know.
Yeah.
If I got a scene I'm doing, I'll beat you. I'll beat you in the if you don't try Chantix, Karen. That's how you sell a product.
You're not smoking?
Yeah, I could. I mean, one of the greatest actors of all time. I can pretend I'm not smoking.
Well,
And then later you could CGI the cigarette out. What are we shooting?
All right, so that's the end of that video. That's Kyle Dunnigan. I just wanted to play that for you. Malcolm tuned into my live stream, which is on Saturdays at 2 p.m. over at the YouTube Jimmy Dore Show. And he saw us playing this, and he suggested we play it for the show today to give everybody a good laugh at the top of the show.
I think we got bigger laughs from that than Steve's New Orleans story.
I was hoping.
Not that it's a competition, Steve, but your story was not funny.
What was my story?
About the dead people in New Orleans.
See, wasn't that funny?
I forgot all about it.
I know.
Not funny at all. Yeah.
So we've been, Malcolm, did you catch this or did I catch this?
I don't know.
The George Snuffleupagus piece?
I think I did.
Okay, so Malcolm sent me this, and this is for the kibitz part, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So Jonathan Karl is a reporter for ABC News, and he was on This Week with on Sunday. He was on This Week with George Snuffleupagus, and I can't believe more people don't take the opportunity to say that name when they refer to him, because no one's going to get on you for saying that. I mean, Dick Cheney could go, Mr. Snuffleupagus. No one's going to be upset. So here's Jonathan Karl, and we'd like to show you and people in the establishment. So we've been here, we've told you about Russiagate, that it is a pure propaganda, just like the WMD's was. And even Nate Silver has said that of the top 100 things that affected the election, Russia wouldn't be in the top 100. So again, everybody who's been reporting, almost ubiquitously misreporting the Russiagate story. And that's why we're here. That's why this show is here. So we've also showed you how people in the establishment media are starting to brace people for a letdown on the Mueller report, right? And so, because Mueller's gotten a lot of indictments, but they're all for other things, for stuff that happened before the election, stuff that had to do with nothing to do with collusion, stuff to do with a payoff to a stripper, stuff that nothing to do with or something to do with Turkey, taking a payment from Turkey. So none of those indictments have anything to do with the core of the investigation, which is conspiracy to collude with Russia illegally in the 2016 election. So now again, we said establishment people are starting to brace people for the Mueller report is not going to be anything. And so here's Jonathan Karl on this Sunday with George. Here we go.
And actually going to the point of investigating whether or not effectively the president was a Russian agent. But what I am getting is that this is all building up to the Mueller report and raising expectations of a bombshell report. And there have been expectations that have been building, of course, for over a year on this. But people who are closest to what Mueller has been doing, who have interacted with the special counsel, caution me that this report is almost certain to be anticlimactic. That if you look at what the FBI was investigating in that New York Times report, look at what they were investigating, Mueller did not go anywhere with that investigation. He has been writing his report in real time through these indictments, and we have seen nothing from Mueller on the central question of, was there any coordination, collusion with the Russians in the effort to meddle in the elections? Or was there even any knowledge on the part of the president or anybody in his campaign with what the Russians were doing?
They haven't laid that out yet in the indictments, but how do things like the Trump Tower meeting with Russians, Don Jr., Paul Manafort giving polling data to Ukrainian oligarchs, the pursuit of a Trump Tower in Moscow, how does that fit into this theory?
What we've certainly seen over and over again is that people around the president, first of all, have been willing to lie to investigators and had their own dealings with Russians, had their own agendas with Russians. Manafort was trying to get paid for his work on behalf of Ukraine. Flynn had his own dealings, but it is not added up to anything of the central question. Again, was there anybody? Was the Trump campaign aware of or coordinating with the Russians in their effort to meddle with the election? So far, there's been nothing on that, and I'm led to believe, don't expect there's going to be any.
Wow. That's a big deal for a guy to go against the establishment narrative on a national broadcast. There's nothing in it for him to say this. You know what I mean? Except maybe he has journalistic integrity, or maybe he sees the writing on the wall too, because he's a reporter who's
a Putin puppet.
Yeah,
or he's a
Putin got to him. Putin got to him.
Oh, why didn't I think of that?
Obvious, Jimmy.
Why didn't I think of that? By the way, George Snuffleupagus, he referenced that Manafort story where they said Manafort, you've heard that story, right? Where he revealed that he gave polling data to Russian oligarchs connected to Putin. Now, you've heard that story. That was reported in the New York Times. New York Times has since retracted that story, but nobody heard that, right? Nobody's heard that. In fact, it gets re-reported on lefty news shows still today, even after the New York Times retracted it. And what did they show? That the story was that Manafort, who was at one time Trump's campaign manager, that he gave secret polling data to Russian oligarchs, meaning rich guys in Russia, and that they gave them to Putin. What actually happened is that he gave polling data, most of it public, to somebody in the Ukraine, not in Russia, Somebody in the Ukraine. Why? Because there was billionaires in the Ukraine who owed Manafort millions of dollars. And what he wanted the people and the millionaires in the Ukraine to know was that the guy I'm working with has a good chance of becoming president. And so you better pay me the money you owe me or you're gonna be in trouble. And if you wanna be on the inside in this administration, you better pay me the money you owe me. That's what that was. It has nothing to do with Russia. It didn't even have anything to do with Russia. But the New York Times breathlessly reports it, front page, we got him. And then people started tweeting out, this is it. In fact, Talking Points Memo tweeted out, this is the end of the collusion debate. That's what Talking Points Memo, completely story, completely, which is crazy. I covered Seth Rich's story for one day because it was a news story and people still smear me. The New York Times on the regular prints bull stories. It gets repeated in places like the Talking Points Memo, Mother Jones, the Washington Post, lefty online news shows, and nobody ever gets smeared for it. On a daily basis, they're misreporting the facts. People who go to news shows on a daily basis who report on Russiagate have no idea what's happening in Russiagate. No idea that look at there it is right on ABC. There's Judge Stuffleuppigan saying, well, what about the Trump Tower meeting? Totally debunked. What about the Manafort thing? Even the New York Times retracted it. And it's still getting thrown around on news shows. And it's still being I guarantee you it's getting misreported today. Even on the left, Mother Jones, Talking Points Memo. So that's why this show exists. That's why this show has people who like it.
So I'm really glad Jonathan Karl reported this, and he reported in a way that was very sobering and makes people maybe listen and calm down. I would love to see him go on more shows and discuss this, and to have this debated by everyone else in cable news, but I would imagine it'll be ignored.
It's a blip. No, it's too late. You can't.
Yeah, you can't stop this train.
Do you really, can I just explain to what people actually think happened with the Manafort polling data? I was watching MSNBC and they had on a group round table of people. And what they were saying when Manafort gave the polling data, he gave the polling data to a billionaire in Ukraine so he could get his money back. What they were saying was that he gave it to Russia so that Russia knew, and this guy Charlie Sykes goes, I was wondering, how did Russia know exactly which states to target at exactly the right time to switch the vote? Are you kidding me? Do you know they spent like $4,000 on Facebook ads over a 6-month period? That's what swung the election in Michigan? Oh my God, why didn't Hillary hire those people? They're genius, the biggest advertising campaign geniuses in the world. They were literally on MSNBC saying that this is what they knew exactly. As if Russia is better at elections than people in America, that they know how to, a Facebook meme, that's what threw the election. It is mental what's happening, and it's still going on. And we're still debunking it. And here it is now getting debunked on ABC News. There's a guy saying, hey, just so you guys know, the Mueller report is gonna be nothing. Just so you know, it's not gonna really, it's gonna be dissatisfying. I know we've been spinning a conspiracy theory about every crazy thing in the world, about a ping from a Russia computer came pinged Trump's computer, all kinds of crazy conspiracy theories over this with absolutely zero evidence. And we've smeared the people who have asked for evidence. Who? People like me, people like Aaron Matei, Glenn Greenwald. We've been smeared because we asked for evidence in the middle of the biggest propaganda campaign in my lifetime. This is bigger than WMD's, although it's leading to another Cold War. We're in another Cold War. It's happened. So I'm sorry, I know I'm talking a lot. Go ahead, Malcolm, you wanted to say something.
Well, just that Russia also spent like half of their money on those Facebook ads after the election.
After the election.
Which, a lot of people would say, well, that debunks it, but what if they're in cahoots with the same people, the time-traveling hackers who hacked into Joy Reid's blog?
And put that anti-gay stuff in there.
Yeah, put that anti-gay stuff in there. I mean, look, the simplest solution is often the best, Occam's razor. And I think that's clearly, the situation here.
So go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, so the point that you're making in the middle of your rant is, I think, a very good one, which is, why didn't Hillary just hire some of these Russian hackers? Because with $6,000 on Google and $100,000 on Facebook, half of which were used after the campaign, they just
somehow
they won, right?
They overcame.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the part that's very frustrating for me because each side had literally billions of dollars at their disposal, and yet the Russians were able to more efficiently sway the election.
They're ninja campaigners. They have more
They're
power.
ninjas.
You know that the people in the Hillary campaign, when they see this evidence and the polling that Manafort gave to the Ukrainians, are like, Michigan.
Oh, why did we know Michigan? So the fact is, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton are the ones responsible for Donald Trump because they encouraged him to run. Bill Clinton called Donald Trump, told him to run, and then Hillary Clinton and the Clinton campaign got all their minions in the press to amplify Donald Trump as a candidate. How do I know that? WikiLeaks let us know, which is why they want to kill him. So Hillary Clinton literally handpicked her challenger, and she sucked so hard, she still lost to him. A hand-picked challenger. The Pied Piper theory. That's why we got Donald Trump as the Republican nominee, and now we got him as president, and she couldn't beat him. Hillary Clinton couldn't beat him. A handpicked. Again, this is driving me nuts. And if you live through the WMD's propaganda, this is the weird thing is that this has more of the left on it. Russiagate. There was a lot of people on the left going for WMDs, Hillary Clinton, John Kerry. I mean, all those people. Joe Biden. That's why. Who's the guy who screamed? Howard Dean was popular because he was against the war and he said he wouldn't support it, and he would start every speech by saying, "I'm from the Democratic wing of the Democratic Party," and people would go crazy. He was the Bernie Sanders back in 2003-4.
And Barack Obama, I think a lot of people forget, that was the major differentiator.
That's why he beat Hillary the first time.
That was the litmus test at that point.
Was the Iraq War, and that's why Hillary lost. Anyway, so I'm glad we got that out of the way. I'm glad I was able to show you Jonathan Karl. Makes me feel good. Also, I like Rand Paul. I like his anti-interventionist stance and his truth-telling on Saudi Arabia. Of course, his domestic policies aren't as good, although he is for prison reform and criminal justice reform. So that's good.
You know, he says these things, but like when it comes time to vote,
he's not.
He's a little, well, I mean, he's squishy. Like,
okay.
You know, he's a go along, get along guy. He talks a good game, but anyway.
Well, he's also against the warrantless surveillance.
Yeah.
So that's a good part of Rand Paul too. Now, a bad part of Rand Paul is he demagogues the healthcare issue, and he pretends that the healthcare that the rest of the world has is somehow worse than the healthcare we have here. And
he called slavery.
He called Medicare for All slavery.
Yeah.
And guess where he's going? He has a hernia. Guess where he's going? He's going to Canada to get his hernia surgery.
Jimmy, I think you're legally obligated to say something every time you mention Canada.
What?
He's going to Canada.
A? Oh, I'm sorry, A. So he's going to Canada, A, to enjoy some of their socialized medicine, although he's paying for it. So that's his big defense is, hey, no, this isn't a government-run hospital, and it's a privately run hospital, and I'm paying for it. And a lot of people from around the world come and pay. Yeah, but the people in Canada don't pay, eh? Because it's taken care of. And so, again, he's misleading people about how socialist, about how Medicare for All works. And it's nice to see he gets called out for it. Isn't that nice?
Listen, Jimmy. Well, so he's going to this clinic that performs this surgery, specifically this kind of surgery that's in Ontario somewhere. And if you are from Ontario, you get that for free. You can have this surgery for free.
For free.
And that's the criticism. It's not because it's a private versus a public hospital.
Right.
It's not because you're someone from out of the country coming can use it. That isn't the argument is that the government should not be paying for your health care.
Right.
That's slavery. And in Canada, that's what they do. The government pays for your health care. And he is coming in and he is benefiting from the larger healthcare system in Canada that created that this clinic operates under. And if American healthcare is so great and is the best in the world, and oh my God, it's slavery up there in Canada, where's our hernia clinic that he can go to in the United States?
Well, so that's the place. So they do the hernia surgery in the United States. I just had it where they put mesh over the hernia, right? So the hole, they don't really actually fix it. They just put a so in Canada, they do with the patch. They don't use that, the mesh. They actually sew it back together, I guess. I don't know how they do it. I'm not a doctor. Can you tell? And so in fact, when I was getting it, people were emailing me saying,
telling you to go to Canada
to get it done because there's problems with the mesh. So I'm not going to Canada to get a
Well, I just wonder how many of Rand Paul's constituents are able to afford a flight to Canada and to pay for that care.
Yeah.
That's interesting that he's able to do that, but he won't avail that same access right here in the United States.
That's interesting. You're right.
It's also very interesting that he voluntarily goes to join the slaves and become a slave of the system because it's better than what we have here.
I guess he's not a slave because he's forking over some money.
Yeah.
So that's how he can go ahead and give himself a pass.
It's more like he's going to the plantation and benefiting from the slavery and saying slavery is terrible. It's stuffing cotton in his pocket. Slavery is the worst thing on earth. Give me some more of that cotton. I mean, that's what he's doing. And it's not just this clinic, it's the whole system.
Yeah.
And not just the healthcare system, but the education system that people there, the doctors, their education is paid for, at least in part, a substantial amount in Canada by the Canadian government, by taxes. So it's part of a whole system that supports the people's healthcare, and now he is benefiting from it, and all of it, his fans are like, oh no, it's a private clinic, it has nothing to do with that. No, they're full of.
Yeah, that's not true.
So what if he's getting drugs from Canada too, pharmaceuticals? Would we know about that necessarily? You know he's going to take full advantage of Canada now.
I wonder if he gets his prescription up there.
Well, but he has gold-plated healthcare, so his prescription meds are probably paid for already here.
Yeah,
but he wants lower prices.
Can I tell you, I take about 5 prescriptions. I'm on 6 or 7. I'm on 6 or 7 prescriptions. 3 blood pressure medicines, and then I have 4 others for my bones. And 3 of the 4 bone things are not covered anymore on my health insurance. I have to pay every time I go to get it. It's $300 to get my pills. Isn't that something?
That's great. And even if you were covered, you probably still have to pay a decent amount.
No, right? I have health insurance. It just doesn't cover it.
Yeah. That's crazy, and I've had some health issues lately, right? But I have to pay out of pocket, even though I have literally called the platinum plan.
Yeah.
It's the platinum plan. It's as good as it gets. I can't get a better plan.
You got to pay out of your pocket.
I just have to pay out of pocket a decent amount. So, I mean, what do people do who can't afford it?
Right. Like I told you.
They go without that medication.
Yes, they go without, and then they die.
And if they do pay for that medication, then they're going to go without maybe food or maybe other, paying rent or paying their mortgage. You cannot. I mean, how many people have health care?
Yeah, I just saw that heartbreaking story it was on Facebook. I forget which state it was, but it was basically this guy. He turned 26. He had to get off his parents' insurance plan, and he couldn't afford his insulin. He had type 1 diabetes. He has this need for insulin his whole life. Price of insulin went up. He has to pay $1,300 a month for his insulin, and he was trying to ration it, and then he died. I mean, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
This is a condition that he's had since birth. We know about it. We know what he needs. And we don't provide it as a society, and then he dies.
Well, we have states that are struggling with lead poisoning, and we have lead poisoning right here in the state of California. Yes. But that's not really revealed or talked about that much. And so there's going to be long-term consequence to this healthcare. So these people who are going to suffer from lead poisoning, what kind of access to healthcare are they going to get? Zero.
So to me,
until they go to prison.
I mean, to me and to most people, I think healthcare is just the most normal, basic part of life. You should have healthcare, just like and government should pay for that. The government should provide healthcare, just like they should provide police, fire, roads. You need all of this. I mean, you need to have proper roads to have proper commerce for a functioning society. You need healthy people. You need people to have healthcare. You need education. These are certain basic social,
constructs.
Without it, you don't have a functioning society.
You would actually think that people who are pro-life would be pro-Medicare for all.
You would think.
But
you would really think that they would be committed to that.
It is amazing that in this country we demagogue healthcare to the point where we call healthcare for all slavery. And, and that is unconstitutional,
it's crazy.
And that it is tyranny. I mean, it is like the most ridiculous opposite talk, right? I mean, it's Orwellian at its finest. I mean, at its worst, I suppose.
So this is what happens when 6 companies own all our media. You get people saying stuff like that, and that this is the narrative that keeps. Even you go to CNN to get fact checked on Medicare for all, they'll tell you a lie about it. CNN will lie to you about Medicare for all. Jake Tapper tells you Medicare for all costs more than the system we have right now, and he tells you you don't get it. You don't have a right to your own facts. He's completely making it up. One of the most important issues of our time, and they're lying about it.
And it's not like we're asking for something that no one has ever done. We're not saying let's all go to Pluto to get healthcare from Neptune and Uranus.
Right.
I like to.
I know.
Every country has it. Like our neighbors have it. Everyone has it. It's plainly evident that we can have it too, and we choose to not have it.
Rand Paul's going to get some of it.
You know, this is something that has always struck me, and I can't help but bring it up whenever we discuss Medicare for all. And in England, it's not just a single payer system. The government owns all the hospitals, and the doctors all work for the government. So it's really socialized medicine. And in the London Olympics, during the opening ceremonies, they did a whole series that was celebrated their national health care.
Yes,
NHS.
Remember that?
Yeah, people pushing beds and patients and dancing around. I mean, and it was,
because it was after the war that they got it.
Right, they got it, but they still celebrate it. And
yes,
they're so proud of their healthcare
very proud
system
of it,
that they put it in their goddamn Olympics opening ceremonies. When we do that, it's like in Salt Lake City, and they're all on old West style, dancing around, in hoedowns.
Yeah.
They were celebrating their healthcare system. Can you even imagine someone saying, "Hey, why don't we celebrate the U.S. healthcare system in our opening ceremonies in Atlanta?"
We have a bunch of bankrupted people.
Yeah, or people like ceremoniously cutting their medicine in half, or something, or going to into the OR or the emergency room when they're at death's door because they couldn't see a doctor. But well, I'm dancing, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, but just the notion that anybody would want to celebrate our healthcare system in any way is inconceivable.
I just got a notice from my healthcare provider, Blue Cross Anthem, and they said, hey, you know what? You could reduce your cost of prescription drugs if you cut your pills in half. So I called my doctor.
No way.
Yes. They said you could ask for, so you would cut your pills in half, you would take a blah, blah, blah. I called my doctor and they want you to do what? Well, first off, you have to make sure that you're cutting your pills accurately, and then you'd have to come in more frequently to get your blood pressure tested. But that's what they're encouraging people to do. So I should cut my meds in half so I can reduce the overall costs that I'm spending.
So that was such a good point about when they got universal health care, when they got Medicare for all, or single payer health care in the UK.
Socialized medicine. They got socialized medicine.
And it happened because of World War II, and Germany was bombing the crap out of England. And so why does that lead to Medicare for all? Because when there's a bomb that blows up a block and there's people injured all over, you don't ask for their health insurance before you take care of them.
Well, I'm sure they all would want to figure out which was the best deal with which ambulance.
They should start shopping.
Yeah, that's just go online. It's an app. It's a very simple app. You're likely not to bleed out before you can. Hopefully you remember. You're
during a bombing,
lightheaded. You're trying to remember your code, but.
During the bombing, you do a little shopping, see who's got the cheapest ambulance and the best for gauze, who's got gauze on sale.
Yeah, and then if they're available, then if they're not available, then you go to your second choice. But, I mean, it's a very simple.
So that's
process.
what happened in England. They were bombing the crap out of England, and there's dead people everywhere and injured people all over the place. And you don't stop to ask them if they have health insurance. You just take care of them because they've just been bombed by Nazis. So we weren't bombed by Nazis in the United States, so we still don't have Medicare for all.
Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed this free clip of Aggressive Progressives on the Young Turks. This is just a preview of what you will receive with TYT membership. That means exclusive interviews, panel discussions, and more of Jimmy, and of course, me. If you like what you saw, you can access full episodes of Aggressive Progressives by becoming a member. Head to tyt.com/join now.